3, 4.
We just live right now, man. It's going down, excited for the season. You know, we coming off a playoff win. I mean, you know, we had a couple wins.
Hello, and welcome back to Diaries, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast presented by us, the staff of Brewhoop. My name is Riley Feldman, your now a little under the weather regular co-host. Sorry about that. I'll mute myself if I'm getting a little too congested, but a group of individuals who I know are having a worse time than me would be the Milwaukee Bucks. That's who we're here to discuss. Pleased to be joined by two Brewhoopers for our second podcast of the season. We're going to start with Kyle Carr. Kyle, how are you doing this evening?
I'm getting by. I had to see my favorite soccer team lose on penalties, so sports was not a good time for me from Saturday night and yesterday.
Well, we're happy that you're sacrificing and willing to be here to go through it, even with that difficulty. We're joined also from down under, Jack Traherne. Jack, how are you doing? And before you tell me how you're doing, I got to also follow up. Do Australians find it annoying when people from the US or Europe, because you guys are so far ahead in terms of time zone, say, oh, what happened tomorrow? What's happening in the future? Like, if I was to ask you, how do the Bucks do tomorrow? Do Australians get frustrated by that, or is it just kind of come with the territory?
Well, they obviously win, Riley. That's what they do.
Folks, you've seen the vision. Do not take gambling advice based off of Jack's vision quest about the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Toronto Raptors.
It was a nice, calm 20-point lead, you know, and they just got it done against the Raptors. No, I'm doing all right. My team over here in Adelaide is doing pretty well since the last time we talked. We might talk about that later, but yeah, my team's doing, the old 36ers are doing okay, but the Bucks, on the other hand, are not doing great. So I'm excited to get into it and talk through it with my Brewhoop friends.
This is going to be a fun episode because, honestly, as Kyle, we had in our podcast right before the season started, would you rather the team sucks when they start and they get better as the season goes along, or be really good when they start and then suck later on? We're getting the former situation here, folks. So before I turn it over to these guys for what they learned through the first 10 games, I got a question for Kyle. Are we on Doc Watch? And before you answer that, let's go through a couple of stats. I'm going to let you contemplate whether or not you have officially moved us to Doc Watch. Through 10 games, the Milwaukee Bucks offensive rating is 110.6. That is 19th in the league. Their defensive rating is 115.7, 22nd, for a net of minus 5.1. That is also 22nd. They're obviously 2-8 on the season. They have beaten a Philly team who are just as bad, if not arguably worse than them, and a Jazz team that are also just as bad, if not arguably worse than them. Through 10 games in the 2023-2024 season under dictator Adrian Griffin, the team had a 113.7 offensive rating. That was 9th in the league. A sterling 116.0 defensive rating. That was 24th in the league. And then that nets out to minus 2.2 for 20th in the league. What is our mantra on this podcast, guys? Say it with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. The truth cannot be controversial. Kyle, are we on Doc Watch right now?
I mean, I think we should be.
Okay, good.
We should be. And granted, I'm probably the biggest Doc hater on the Brewhoop staff. I will
without doubt
admit that. I was not happy when he was hired. I have not been happy the whole time he has been here. But I was willing to at least say, you know what? He came into a chaotic period. The team had a lot of problems. Give him an offseason. Let him fix it. And we got an offseason, and somehow this team is worse in every category. And that's with arguably, I think we would all say arguably better players. Like, we feel confident Taurean Prince is much better than Jay Crowder ever will be at this point. We're pretty confident that Gary Trent Jr. was better than Malik Beasley. Yeah. I would say so. We thought that. We thought that. And we all thought that DeLon Wright would be an upgrade on Patrick Beverley and campaign. So how the hell did this team get worse with better players? I'm on Doc Watch because you had the whole offseason and somehow a lot of the issues, and it's the same theme. They continue to get outworked. They continue to get out hustled. They continue to start slow. There's stretches where they cannot seem to do anything coherent on the offensive side or the defensive side or both. It's the same common theme. So how many times with the same common theme? Yeah, you're taking responsibility, but what are you doing to fix it? And we saw some tweaks. We saw Andre Jackson Jr. go into the starting lineup. We've seen AJ Green and Ryan Rollins so we're seeing him trying to change, but then he keeps going back to the same problems of why the hell you played Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton at the same damn time. So yes, well, Doc watch. It's on. It won't be because they don't want to pay for 2 coaches again, but it's got to happen.
This is so question for the room before we actually, I got a lot of questions here up front. There's a lot of questions about this team, but this one's also stupid. Which move is more debilitating for you as a fan to see your coach do? Mike Budenholzer do his impression of the Scream, Edvard Munch's The Scream, where he goes, or where Doc Rivers doubles over in disbelief at what the hell is happening on the court. Which for you, when you're sitting at home, you're watching like, oh my God, we're so cooked. Which one signals that more to you, Doc or Bud?
Doc, because I feel the same way, and I'm just like, I get it, but you're the problem. You are part of the problem.
What about you, Jack? Which one kind of breaks your heart a little bit more when you see it?
I think it's the Doc one. Although the frequency with which Doc pulls that one is a higher frequency than Bud pulled the Scream. So we have to consider that. But I'll take a little bit more of the optimistic look at this. I think they've had 4 games or like 5 games against teams you would expect to beat them in the early season without Chris. That's 5 losses. We've had 2 against Boston, 2 against the Cleveland, and 1 against Memphis. And then I don't even know if we've played another good team. But then, and then we've got Brooklyn, who suddenly are actually like somehow good. And then Chicago, who are better. So I don't know. I'm waiting for them to play like when they play an actual team that is like legitimately down the bottom of the standings. And if they mess that up, I think that'll change a lot. And then, or that'll change how I view things. And then also, obviously, there's some problems with this rotation, as Kyle hinted at, with Portis and Connaughton, and I think in a top-heavy team that basically will have 3 guys who score, like they'll have Giannis and Dame and Chris. One of those 3, or 2 of those 3, or 3 of those 3 guys are going to score majority of our points, and I think Chris not being on the team is really hurting them right now. So I don't know. I'm willing to give Doc a bit more time, I reckon.
All right, enough Doc talk. We'll get into him a little bit more as we go along here. Let's switch into the actual podcast here. I'm going to ask you guys, normally we do what did you learn this week? This time around, because we didn't podcast last week, we're just going to do what have we learned through the first 10 games. Jack, we're going to start up with you. What have you learned about the team through the first 10 games of the season?
I think what I've learned, the biggest thing, there's a whole bunch of like sort of smaller things going on, but the biggest thing that I've learned is that Giannis is the key to making this all work. And I'm constantly thinking of myself, like, is he like he's scoring 40 points per game, he's scoring 36 points per game, he's scoring, X number of rebounds, X number of assists, and it's just like, is it really fair for me to be like criticizing him or like looking at his game the way that I am? But at the same time, I think the game against, in those opening 4 games, I don't think was playing well like at all, and he was had really good numbers. But I'm always looking at him like, I think he's the key to making Dame work, and I think he's the key to getting the shooters open shots and helping Brook out, and I think he's been better over the past sort of few games, but I think his decision-making in key moments was especially lacking against Boston yesterday. And so my thing that I've learned through the first 10 games is that I just think he is the major key to unlocking everyone else, and his attitude towards playing sort of Giannis ball or playing like as more of like a complementary option to the other star on the team. Not now that Chris is not there, but I think Giannis is the conductor that can make this all work. And his attitude as he comes into every game, whether they're playing a good team or a bad team, is the key to unlocking everyone else.
I definitely can see that because I mean, I'm trying to remember which game it was that Giannis more or less like made too many boneheaded plays because he was trying to do hero ball. I think it was the Bulls game primarily.
Yep.
Where it was just like a lot of that fell on Giannis deciding I'm just going to do all this despite not looking. We saw it in part against Boston as well on Sunday, where it was like there are moments where Giannis could have gotten into Dame or gotten to someone else, but in his idea, I think he does try a little bit too much, and maybe that's because he's looking around. I mean, he was saying after the Knicks game, maybe who does anyone actually give a shit? And he's like, well, I do, so I'm just going to do it myself. And I think there is kind of like that hard balance of, yes, Giannis does need to lead it all, but also he needs to lead it in a way that helps others, as you're mentioning, Jack. So I think for me, it does start with Giannis. And I mean, if you think about it, we get to Adrian Griffin because Giannis doesn't want Nick Nurse. I still don't think Nick Nurse was the right choice. But we get to Adrian Griffin because Giannis didn't like Nick Nurse. We get to basically him getting fired because they lost faith. Like, it does kind of fall, like, as the star player, as the face of the franchise, it is kind of on you to go and fix it and make it better. And that's kind of what I think will happen. And then like Jack was saying, like, he has to get others involved. And again, it doesn't need to be him trying to Rambo his way to the rim. Sometimes it could just be, if Dame's hot, give it to Dame. Or maybe, like, say, Brooke, get your ass in the post and do that. So it will have to, it starts with Giannis, and Giannis's actions will dictate what everyone else does. So I agree.
Here's my defense of Giannis, and I'm trying to pull up the team's numbers right now. So when we think about the team as it's currently constructed, sans Chris, you have literally two scoring options, one being Dame, one being Giannis, and they're both scoring a lot, which is good. However, the only other scoring option that we have is Bobby Portis, who has been such a black hole defensively, and also when it comes to facilitating team ball, that if Giannis doesn't go out there and gun for 30 plus points, you're going to struggle to see how they win. Now, the counter that is, okay, well, Giannis is setting up other guys are scoring. I think outside of AJ Green, everybody else's 3-point percentages are, I think Prince's numbers are okay. But a lot of the guys, their 3-point percentages are like basement dwelling, really bad. Like Gary Trent Jr. has been not great from 3. Prince has been okay. DeLon Wright, he's out there. He's on the floor. He's on the court. I've seen that. I don't think I've witnessed him take a 3 yet. I'm sure it has happened. But you run through, Pat is kind of busted at this point. Like, I'll just keep hammering that. Kyle will hammer that in a second. So when I'm running through, you just wonder, yes, it would be great if Giannis could set more guys up. I think he does still kind of take the burden on his shoulders a bit too much. However, I sympathize with him because the way the roster is constructed and the rotation is constructed is there's quite literally, if Dame has even a wobbly night, Giannis's scoring is going to be much more consistent because it's not based off of jumpers. And therefore Giannis just says, like I said, I got to do what I got to do. This is like Adrian Griffin ball 2.0. It's like, I got to do what I got to do. I'm sorry. This is how it's got to work. So that's not to excuse the boneheaded mistakes or the times when he presses too hard. But if I'm going to ding Giannis for anything, it's the fact that his defense sucks and he's a huge ball watcher and it's gotten worse. And he's not even doing the like off ball reaper stuff that he used to do. And that is where you would expect, and it's probably exhausting being the offensive guy, but that's where you expect leadership is like, you need to help us out on defense because quite clearly your perimeter guys are not going to be able to get it done. Sans Ajax coming in now.
Yeah, I really do sympathize with the fact that it's like, well, I got to do something here because no one else is doing anything and no one else is hitting any shots. Yeah. And the part that I'm like is like, well, he can get better at this is the decision making in terms of like we're in a close game against Boston. The answer to, we get a stop, we get a really hard fought for stop. And then the decision is to do a no pass, one dribble, pull up jump shot. Like that cannot be the shot. And then, like you're saying, with the off-ball defense, yeah, he has been horrible in off-ball defense this year. So yeah, it's a really hard one with Giannis. I mean, we all know he's the best player on the team, and it's difficult for him to, like he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders, and it's not necessarily fair for us to critique his game like this. But I mean, it's just like is basically what it is right now. I mean, he's the leader of the team, and he has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders for sure.
If you're the guy, you just have to accept this is part of it. And I don't think he minds. Like, I don't think he gets agitated about that. It's just hard for us because it's like, well, we're asking the world of this guy and then some. And that's just kind of what comes with the territory. I just looked it up. So Gary Trent Jr., he's shooting 23% from three. He's actually shooting fewer threes than he has in years and years and years. His 3-point attempt rate is up, but his overall threes are down, which seems like a mistake. But if you're not making them, the shots are going to come to you. So I kind of understand that. Bobby, God bless him, he's shooting 26%. Pat's shooting 26%. AJ Green, Kyle, is shooting 60% from three. He's the only guy. And Torian Prince is shooting 55% from three. Brooke also 27% from three. So it's like the cast outside. So you have Prince, who's shooting well. Okay, great. You have AJ Green, who's shooting really well. That's great. I think I've seen too many mistakes from Green in like just small samples. Like, oh, okay, that defense wasn't good. Oh, they're like running the same corner, him and Dame, where you're like, are we taking away a little bit too much here? But you have two guys that are providing 3-point shooting. And one of them was a young guy who was buried on the bench up until somewhat recently, and he was the most tertiary rotation guy. And the other one has to be busy defending whoever the other team's best player is. Yeah. Well, good luck, Giannis. You're gonna. We literally haven't heard anything about Chris in weeks, so I assume you're just gonna have to keep. I don't think we're going to either. So, it's a tough break, but it would help out a lot if guys made threes. But the one other thing I will note, when was the last time outside of like a quarter, like the start against the Celtics, or maybe even a half, where you were like, wow, this offense is really coming to these guys easily? They are dying out there for every single shot attempts. Like the best we get is a couple like pick and rolls, Dame Giannis, Dame off of an action. He drives to but even then he's kind of having to like finish through contact or do kind of a tough finish. He's hitting them, which is great. But even that offense, which is, I think I said 19th, like that's super accurate. It looks hard. Like it looks really hard. And part of that is on the players. There's a lot of
standing around going on.
A lot of standing around. I think a lot of that falls on the coaching staff too, but that's a discussion for another day as well. So, Kyle, how about you? What did you learn from the Bucks from the first 10 games?
I'll get to that shortly. I think the other part of the offense is like we saw it against the Jazz, we saw it against the Celtics, and a lot of it is simply hitting shots and ball movement is kind of the common one. But speaking of ball movement, what I've learned is I never want to see Pat and Bobby on the court anymore, and especially at the same time. I'm over it. I can't do it. I refuse to watch. I just assume the worst is going to happen. I'll write about it in my weekly Wednesday wrap up. But at this point, those two are doing so much more harm than good. Pat Connaughton, even when we were looking at it, it's like looking rough, like last year was looking rough. And then he played pretty well, like shortly after Doc arrived. And I was like, okay, we'll do it. And then we went back to, well, Pat normally is one of like the reliable ones in the playoffs. That didn't happen against Indiana. So the one thing that was keeping Pat even a chance is gone. There's no reason to keep playing him when you have an AJ Green, now a Rylan Rollins. At the time, Andre, like you had these other guys who could do what Pat is doing at a better level. Like shooting, AJ Green can do that. Defending, being all over the place, being a pest, Andre Jackson Jr. and Ryan Rollins seem to be doing that better. There's no reason to keep playing Pat Connaughton. Bobby Portis is a harder one because there's not that many bigs at all. So like Bobby Portis kind of has to, because when Giannis or Brooke are out, Bobby has to play for one of those two. But it's not working. It doesn't work. And Bobby's offense, I put it on Blue Sky, like Dame can get away with being a just terrible defender because you know there is an offensive side to Dame that can make up that difference. You can do that with Dame. You can excuse Dame's lackluster, non-existent defense because you know on offense, he'll likely, and especially this season, he's been good on offense. Bobby doesn't have that luxury, and Bobby has not showed it. Like, for what we liked Bobby for was his rebounding, his hustle, and being able to provide a spark off the bench. He's not doing that anymore. His ISO ball is stopping all ball movement. It's causing problems. Defensively, there's no way we can try and cover for him anymore. So at this point, I'd rather see Liam Robbins out there. I'd rather you just say, Giannis, deal with it, play more of the 5, and then you can throw more small ball like Giannis at the 5 lineups. But those two are the biggest problems at this point. Like, Milwaukee can't get better if you keep throwing the 2 players that are actively harming your team the most.
I'm looking at Bobby's numbers right now. So through 10 games, whether or not it's a large enough sample size is kind of in the eye of the beholder, but he has his highest usage percentage since he became a Buck. He also has his lowest true shooting percentage since he became a Buck, his lowest 3-point attempt rate since he became a Buck, his lowest free throw rate of his entire career, which matches the eye test because he is not going to the rim almost ever. It is almost exclusively post up fadeaway jumpers for the most part. The rebounding numbers, let's see here. The percentages were slightly worse last season, but they're still pretty low for him. And then his assist percentages are down too, which were never all that high to begin with. But you're getting like the worst of all worlds, Bobby. You're getting not spacing Bobby. You're getting rebounding has always been an issue with Bobby. It's just getting compounded even worse because now Giannis isn't really trying. Like, I think, Jack, did you say in the chat yesterday, it was like, Giannis, if you just don't wait for the ball come to you, like, go up just a little bit to get it. And so it's even the other guys. Did Brooke record a rebound yesterday? And yes, that's what Brooke does. But it's like, now Bobby's this is why he's the double-double machine, because he gets the rebounding. If that is out the window.
One rebound.
Yeah. And like Brooks' rebounding has always been low because he's out there to try and.
Yeah, he boxes out. Yeah.
Yes. So I understand that. But that means Bobby is that much more important. So we have this conundrum where Bobby couldn't be more important and he couldn't be playing more detrimentally to the team. I get it. He's got to be the scoring option because nobody else is doing it right now. But like the way he's going about it is detrimental. And I'm sure on some level he's got to be aware of that. Come on.
The fact that his usage is higher this season than when Brooke was, we thought Brooke was dead for 90% of the season. And then, like, Bobby has a lower usage then when there was a more prime example. He was in the starting lineup. He was getting more opportunities. And somehow his usage is lower than this year when that's the part that baffles me as well. It's like, you have Giannis and Dame. We don't need more Bobby. Like, when Brooke was out, yes, I understand we needed more Bobby because he's still like Chris, who probably had some injury at that season, for all we know. And Bobby was at least efficient. I don't know. Like, somehow Lethal Shooter is able to keep posting TikToks and say, I understand it now, and shoot a goddamn gummy bear into a water bottle. But you're telling me Bobby can't hit a broadside of a barn? I don't understand it now.
It's a bad situation. The team should have nixed Lethal Shooter years ago. The damage he has done to this team's title window, that one individual, is almost incalculable. I think all reasonable people can agree that whoever Lethal Shooter is, he owes us a ring or two at minimum because of the damage he's done to Bobby Portis. Yeah, it's a lot like the Giannis problem where it's like, what is the pivot solution besides somebody else making shots? There is none right now outside of literally trading Bobby. And Bobby has been a awesome servant for the franchise. He's been a great ambassador for the city. So it's hard because it's so frustrating to watch. It's like, oh my God, please just get off the team. And I don't want to minimize all the things he's done, especially on an underpaid contract. However, it doesn't feel sustainable, especially with the defense this bad that he's not even, it's just, watch the clips. The clips are just horrible. They come in every single game of him just ball watching, not knowing who his guy is, who the help defense is. It's just not sustainable, I don't think. Any Pat thoughts from anybody? I should note he's playing the lowest number of minutes a game he ever has as a Buck. He still is getting minutes. I think the highest was like 22 on that road Cleveland game a week ago, but Any thoughts on Pat? I think he's more easily demotable because he was kind of already on the outside looking in my opinion, and he plays a position that's easier to shuffle guys through to see if there's a fix. Any Pat thoughts from anybody?
Yeah, my thing coming into the year with Pat is like, okay, he looked cooked towards the end of last year. Is he cooked? I mean, he's probably cooked. But yeah, with Pat, I mean, the thing that I get worried about with Pat, and I wrote this in sort of some of my preseason stuff, is that what can you bank on him bringing you night to night? And Pat's always been kind of a do it everything, like, he'll hit some threes, he'll come off some screens, he'll make some decent passes, he'll run some, pick and roll, and maybe he survives on defense. But that level that he was at 2021 when they won the championship, and he was just that perfect connector, he's just nowhere near that anymore. And like, what is he hitting shots? No, he's not hitting shots. Is he playing defense? No, he's not. That's why it's like I was like with AJ Green, I'm going to throw him out there and he's going to hit shots and he's going to fight on defense, but I know he's going to hit shots. And we were a bit nervous about that in preseason, but he's come good. And by the way, just some thoughts on Bobby. Like the amount of times in games where Bobby will just make a mistake and I'm like, Bobby, no.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Bobby, no. And I mean the numbers on Bobby are horrible. Like and this is one problem, I defended Doc a little bit before, but this is one thing that you're really worried about with Doc is this Montrezl Harrell 2.0, like in that playoff series against Denver in the bubble, they had Ivica Zubac, who was the best defender on Jokic, and Doc just would not go away from his guy, Montrez, because he was the sixth man of the year and blah, blah, blah. And this is what I'm worried about. Like, is the coaching staff seeing these numbers? Because at this point, like, you got to try pushing some buttons. Like, I don't care throw Liam Robbins out there, go a small ball with Tyler Smith, like, see if anything else works, because like this guy, ever since we got Dame, is not a fit on this team, and everyone knows it and everyone sees it, and it's just like it is much harder to remove Bobby from the rotation than it is Pat. But like, I'm just like throughout all these games, I'm just like, push a button because this guy's killing us. Like in those two Cleveland games, I believe they win that game if probably they don't play Bobby. He's like minus 20 in games they're losing by 2 points. And I'm just like, you gotta, like, Doc, push some buttons. And even if it doesn't work, at least we can say we tried. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
This is a good plug here for Brewhoop's playback channel. I highly encourage you. You'll see the links in all of our game articles. If you want to watch the usually very staid, even-keeled staff of Brewhoop, every time Bobby gets the ball and starts posting up going, oh, no, don't do it, Bobby, don't do it. That's the place to do it. So if you're feeling that at home, trust us, we're doing it live and you can watch us do it. My only other thoughts. So Pat Connaughton has a player option for $9.5 million next year. I'm thinking he's going to be picking that one up. So
yep.
we need
he's cashing in.
Yeah, Pat needs to be getting gone. I mean, whatever. He just becomes like a culture guy. You just say, hey, have fun with your real estate or whatever. Just get the hell out of here. Okay, that's easy enough. I wish Chris was healthy because I want to see what Bobby looks like if he's not the third option. Can you just push him down a little bit enough that it's like, okay, we can make it make sense. You have Chris, then you have Prince, you have the tools for a small ball rotation with Giannis at center, which we really haven't done much this season. Can we try that once Chris is back? So it's like Bobby's killing us, obviously. But can Bobby kill us less if he's slightly less important? And like with a lot of the problems with the team, until Chris comes back, we don't know when that will be. We just don't know what the actual situation looks like. But I think everybody can agree the big rotation, which was something I think a lot of us circled prior to the season, is not ideal. Okay, thing that I learned in the first 10 games. So when we had our first podcast of the season, I said I underrated Gary Trent Jr.'s defense and I overrated how much the team defense would improve. Now I got to go the other way. I then at that point, well, not even, yeah, no, yeah, other way. So Gary Trent Jr., I overrated his defense. He does a lot of stomping around. He does a lot of foot movements, and he does it far out from the basket. However, I get the sense that's a little matador-y. And like Malik Beasley was the king of being a matador defender in that he would like not even try. So at least Gary Trent Jr. is like that first action. He's not letting the guy just blow past him. So he is an improvement on paper. However, he is not the fix. And so the situation we're looking at here is I think this defense is just broken and there is no fix outside of massive roster changes because Dame is so bad. So bad. And Gary Trent Jr. is not nearly good enough to cover for that. And then you have Giannis, who is playing poorly. Brooke, who is under siege again. Poor guy. Yet another season that he's under siege. Bobby's horrible. Prince is okay. I've said in the group chat, I've had moments I'm like, I don't know about that. But, you know, he's a bench guy who's been promoted to spot starter who's playing a lot of minutes. So I'll just give him a mulligan. Chris, he's not going to fix the defense. I'm sorry for the Chris believers, and there are many of us, he's not going to fix the defense. And so Ajax is an option. I think that is interesting. His foul stuff, we'll just see it throughout the season. I think he is an option. AJ Green has moments, but I just don't see a world where this team is going to be able to get the defense up above league average over the course of a season. Can they play really good defense for a few minutes if a game is on the line? Maybe. But when games have been close and on the line, have they shown great defensive instincts even within like a single play? No. So my concern is that no matter what, even if Chris comes back and the offense sorts itself out, which will help the defense, as you pointed out numerous times, Jack, like part of helping the defense is making the other team have to reset and take the ball out of the basket. Like if you're missing a lot, then yes, you're going to be scrambling going the other direction. However, I'm just so concerned against any team with a clue, any team that has a coach who knows what they're doing, and they're being able to pick the Bucks apart because the perimeter defense is that bad and there is no fix coming, barring some sort of trade, which I can't even envision right now. So overrated Gary Trent Jr.'s defense. And I guess at that point, if I said overrated that, I was true. It was correct. I overrated the team defense, and that's still correct. Any thoughts on that?
I think as you said, like the only way you change it is by massive roster changes. And I think maybe it's going to be a matchup. Gary Trent Jr.'s defensive ability is going to be very matchup dependent. And that could be the case where what we saw it with Tyrese Maxey was, all right, you just go and annoy the living hell out of Tyrese Maxey and and everything else will hopefully fall into place. It helped. Yes, Embiid is not there. Paul George was not there. But at the same time, Philly is a team that Milwaukee can match with because Philly's not a team that is going to be running. Philly's not a team that is dependent on guards getting to the hoop. Like Maxey can do it, but if you put a Gary Trent Jr. and Ajax out there, I mean, we even saw moments last year where AJ Green was able to do it. It can work. So I think a lot of the problem is it might just be a matchup specific thing that you can use Gary Trent Jr. on, and it'd be very, very effective. But with a lot of these teams, I know we were talking in the chat yesterday about like some of the matchups against Western teams. And yeah, like Dallas might not be as good, but they still have two guards that will absolutely eviscerate anything Milwaukee does. Denver, another team, they might not be as good as they normally are, but they still have players that can just eviscerate. And I think at this point, the team defense is going to be broken until roster changes. But the thing is, how do you mitigate that brokenness? And do you just go more matchup dependent to hopefully offset that? And like you said, Riley, maybe they can show competent team defense for a 4-minute stretch. That might be all that they need. That might be, if it's a close enough game, that 2-3 minutes, that might be it, because Milwaukee's offense could hopefully, when Chris returns, get to a level where, yeah, the defense might give up 8, but the offense could score 10, 11, 12, and that gives you that little bit of a gap that you might need in terms of closing out a close game. But no, I mean, we thought it was a system last year with Adrian Griffin, and Doc came in and sure was a little bit better, but a lot of it was getting back on defense after a miss would be huge, but the team can't rebound. The team doesn't get back on defense. The team doesn't win a 50-50 ball. So, yeah, this defense is absolutely screwed until a large overhaul in the personnel.
The theory of the Milwaukee Bucks case is exactly as you say, Kyle. They are trying to be so good offensively that all they need is like competent defense for a small stretch to win. And on paper, I can kind of understand it, but I think that's really hard to translate to actuality, especially, I mean, obviously this version of the team is so busted up, so many bad offensive players, so many guys not contributing that the theory of the case, you can't even apply the theory because you don't have the tools to do it. So that's why you get the 2-8 record. But now I'm thinking long-term, and by long-term, I mean the playoffs. How does that theory hold up? Not good so far. I don't know. I haven't even seen like the outside of beating again a Sixers team that's as bad as us and a Jazz team that is losing their ass off for Cooper Flag. Their asses, apologies, plural. I just haven't seen really the theory come together in a way where I'm like, oh, this is sustainable. So
yeah, like Kyle said, there needs to be like this, the kind of ceiling for this defense is not that great. There needs to be roster changes. Bobby Portis is a massive problem on this defense, and he doesn't fit on this team anymore. I've been thinking about this a lot, like control the controllables. I think Jackson has been a massive plus. If we can, I think like at the start of the Utah game, I mean, he was just electric, and I tweeted this out, but the thing that I liked about that lineup, I think they got off to like a 10-point lead or something straight out of that game, and the thing that I liked about that lineup is it was like everyone else was athletic, everyone else was they looked big and athletic around Dame, and then when the problem they have is the bench comes in and they get small and slow. So you get Portis in there, you get Connaughton in there, and then the opposing guards are just like, all right, time to eat. So, I think one option is just playing Jackson a lot more. Like I'm talking at least 30 minutes a night at this point, and you just play him like I feel very, very comfortable with him on opposing guards and that he's going to do a good job. He's one of the few players where I'm like, I can rest easy if he's playing. And then, I mean, you got to Portis is going to be a problem. They're trying Rollins out. I think he's been pretty good. AJ Green competes. There's not a whole lot you can do. And then one problem that, I spoke about it before, the off-ball defense. Obviously, we know Dame struggles off-ball. Giannis has been horrid. Like some of his closeouts in the just the amount of the amount of simple switches this team misses on a daily on a game-to-game basis. Just like literal just a switch, and then two guys go to one guy and they get an open shot. Like that's a massive problem. And I think so they just need to control. I think they can be better in off-ball defense, but it's going to take some focus and watching some film. And then, I mean, I've just said they have to keep pressing buttons until the deadline, and they have to make, some personnel changes at the deadline. I mean, if I'm picking one of Pat, or I don't think they can combine Pat or Bobby. Maybe Van said they can. I'm not sure on the rules about that, but I'd be looking to get Portis out on the first plane ride out, and I think they need to just sort of tread water until that point and just keep pushing buttons. But my problem is that Doc is not really pushing. Like he won't limit Portis's minutes. I don't think. He'll limit Pat's minutes, but he won't limit Portis's minutes, and that's what's really worrying me.
The things I will give Doc credit for. So, Jack, when we were at the Cleveland away game, I joined on the playback for a few minutes, and that third quarter group where it was Ajax, was it Rollins, Dame, Portis, and somebody else, whoever, like it was mostly a young guy group, and they went on a run, and Doc said, okay, F it, we're just going to leave you guys in to like see if you close it out. So that was good. I like the fact that Doc has demoted Trent and Wrights. Now I know they are hurts. They are hurts, whatever that means. I think that means their ego needs to be protected for being demoted out of the starting lineup. But stuff like that is exactly when you become 2-8 and you thought you had a chance to like win a title. I'm sorry, but the guys who aren't cutting it, yeah, you got to just start kind of pulling levers. So I will be curious to see, like, does that sustain? Do we just take Trent out of the rotation for a few games for him to get better, put him back in there and see what happens? If Wright was injured coming into the season, did he like do the thing where he's like, oh, I'm good to go, and he's not really good because he's just out there doing cardio. He can't actually play, and he's just sabotaging the team because they just want to lose his spot in the rotation. Like, thanks a lot if that's the case. So there are some things, but I think just fundamentally, like, the Bobby thing is just really hard to get over. And, you know, maybe once you're able to increase minutes for everybody else, you can get there. And Bobby's a minimal part, but I just don't see the obvious fix right now outside of Ajax really taking that step forward and it being like sustained. Not like a 3-game step forward. I mean, I'm talking like a number of games with the occasional stinker thrown in there.
Yeah, I think in terms of in-house options for Bobby, it's either you hope that someone like Liam Robbins or Chris Livingston or Tyler, like one of those three can show enough, not a lot, just enough to justify giving him a crack at the rotation. Because as I said, if Tyler Smith could do everything Bobby does without damaging as much, you have a replacement right there. We've seen Doc give the two-way guys playing time. We've seen Ryan Rollins get playing time. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that Liam Robbins could also get that playing time. So again, is it going to be, will they show enough to do that? We know Chris Livingston in Summer League was willing and did pretty well in doing the dirty work aspect of the role, like going in and just being a pest. He doesn't need to fill up the stat sheet. He just needs to go and be a disruptor. So I think that's the only thing. And again, it's harder for Bobby because there's not really a replacement right now that Doc seems to trust, as opposed to with Pat Connaughton. It's like, seems like he can trust Ryan Rollins for a bit. He trusts Ajax. Maybe Gary Trent Jr. gets better. So like there are other options where you can at least slowly chip away Pat's time. But with Bobby, it's just, again, there's no in-house besides potentially Liam Robbins or Tyler Smith getting a chance. And I don't know if that's going to happen.
The only thing with Liam Robbins is if they play him, I mean, they have no Liam Robbins is not asking for the ball on the post. You know, he's more than happy to just play. Yeah,
he'll set a hard screen if he needs to.
Yeah,
it's true.
He's more than happy to do the dirty work and just hit dudes. And you know, I want to see it. At this point, I want to see it. You know, because like with Bobby, it's like my whole thing is if Dame and Bobby ever share the court, like number one, your defense is going to be horrible. But number two, Bobby should never like. We're still playing in the dark ages of basketball, like doing ISO, you know, like a mid-range, like a ISO mid-range 2-pointer from Bobby. Like that's not it. Like that's not the offense. And if Dame and him are ever sharing the court, you want to be playing that offense through Dame and stop giving the ball to Bobby on the post. And yeah, that's my whole thing is like if Bobby's out there, he's gonna ask for the ball. And if you chuck Liam Robbins out there, he's just going to do the dirty work.
The thing that also hurts here is that Brook feels less of a threat offensively than he ever has as a Buck. And I just looked, he's averaging 9 points a game, which is miraculous. You could have gun to my head, I would never have guessed he is averaging that many points. However, his percentages from three are bad again. They're under 30%. And in the past, he would be getting a high volume of threes up. Like it was like green light every single time. It was very like deliberate within the flow of the offense and then occasionally go inside. Part of the trouble is Brook is now a lesser offensive player. He's almost 40 effing years old, so I understand. But now it's like, okay, that's another piece that would have held things up at least a little bit, who is now less on the board than we would have expected. So it's like this whole top-down degradation of the team due to aging, responsibilities, whatever. And unfortunately for us, a lot of that then comes to Bobby. And Bobby is like, okay, sure. Like this is a dream situation for Bobby. But as far as team winning, it's like the least possible, like good spot to be. And frankly, we're talking a lot about Bobby. Bobby's been really bad. It's not just a Bobby problem. Like you get to 2-8, it's a huge problem from a lot of different guys. So that's the last point I want to make. Any final parting thoughts on the wondrous 2-8 start to the 2024-2025 season? Any other thoughts on it?
Hopefully, it has been a little bit of a tougher schedule. I think we all know that the schedule has been tough. They haven't had back-to-back home games, playing the Celtics twice, playing the Knicks, playing the Cavs twice. Like, that is not an easy list of games. So hopefully, as the schedule gets easier, maybe things get a little bit better. So there's like that little sliver of hope that you can hang on to.
Yeah, I've been thinking, pray to the gods we get Chris back soon. I don't know what the thing is there. I mean, one thing that I've been thinking is like, if we're going to play all of these tough games early without Chris, like if he comes back for all the quote unquote easy games, like we should be able to feast on this part of the schedule. And, maybe if Chris played in all of these first few games and he's playing like whatever, like, 15 to 20 minutes per game and they're playing the big three and we're still losing. I mean, maybe it's just better. Maybe it's just more useful. Maybe it's just more useful if we get him sort of for the easy stretch and we can just bank wins. But I mean, who knows what's going on with Chris? I mean, we'll see.
Ooh, it's a lot of fun, isn't it, folks? Even in my worst nightmares, I did not expect 2-8. So
to answer, would you rather start the season suck and get better? I didn't think it'd be this bad.
You were thinking like maybe like 4-5 or like 4-6. Like, oh, that's not great, but like tough schedule.
Maybe like they beat the teams they're supposed to and then get pants by the Celtics the 2 times, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like they've gotten close against the Celtics. It's like, you guys can sort of do it, but they just don't have the horses to keep it up when the other team. Okay. We've gone for about 45 minutes, so we're going to skip. We were going to just name guys, but we'll save that for the future in case 2-8 goes even worse from here, in which case we'll just name some guys segments. So we're going to switch over here to the miscellaneous. I'm going to start with rapid fire questions. Let's start right here, guys. Who leads the NBA in points per game? And I mean individual player.
Anthony Davis, I think, is up there. I think Anthony Davis.
I'll take a stab in the dark and say Cam Thomas.
It is Giannis Antetokounmpo at 31.6 points a game. He is leading the league in individual scoring right now. So he is willing this team as far as literally more than any other player in the league, and that is why he is deserving of 9th place in the NBA's MVP ladder per the story I read this morning. Okay. Do you think Pat Connaughton can revive his career if he does a career shift from Pat to Patrick Connaughton?
No.
Okay. Jack, any thoughts on that?
Interesting theory. No, I don't.
New jersey number. He finally gets rid of the faux hawk because he's a guy.
He's been rocking the single leg sleeve, so maybe if he goes, I know in his 2021 year, the career year he was doing I remember he was doing double leg sleeves, full leg sleeves. So maybe we'll try that, and then he'll get some of the nostalgia from that year, and we'll be good to go.
We're so cooked. I was kind of hoping I was kind of thinking like, okay, midlife crisis. He just became a dad. Congratulations. He changes his name from his legal name is Patrick, so he's not changing his name, but like we refer to him as Patrick Connaughton. He changes his jersey number, dyes his hair, finally gets rid of the 12-year-old kid faux hawk, and like gets a sick tattoo. Like let's change it all the way up. That's kind of what I was thinking with that, but Kyle doesn't seem convinced based off his facial expression. Okay. All right. Next question. Have you ever been to a drive-in theater? I.e., you take your car, you drive out to a field in BFE, wherever, and you tune in via your radio set and watch the movie on a big screen that's a mile away?
Not since I was a child.
But you have been.
Yeah, like I think I went to 1 or 2 as a kid, but I definitely am not as an adult. I don't even know where one would be in the Madison area.
We have one in Yeah, we have one in Adelaide. I know it's like the last operating one. It might be the last operating one. Like I know in the state we have one in the state. I don't think there's even many anywhere in Australia. But I have never been.
Objectively, I've been once. I think I went to go see The Dark Knight, which was kind of a weird film to go see from and be like a mile away. Just kind of a really crappy experience, in my humble opinion. Like, I'm just in my car and I can barely see the screen. Why would so I understand. Like, I could get it back in the day, 1950s. Nobody knew a damn thing about anything, so they said, "Oh, this is awesome," but not for the modern world. Okay, the aforementioned Chris Livingston. How many games has he appeared in so far this season?
0?
0, right?
He's appeared in no games. He and Chris are the only Bucks who have not logged even a single minute on the court so far this regular season. So RIP to all my Chris Livingston stands. We had a moment in Summer League, and Doc Rivers is not a believer. He does not believe in Chris Livingston.
Guess
and
not.
that's a real backbreaker for us. Okay.
I will say on Chris, there was a lot of people on the Chris train, and I was like sort of like always like, like what is his NBA skill? I mean, there was a lot of people like preseason, and it would be cool if he does turn out, but I was a bit like, does he shoot it? Does he dribble? Like, is he just like a G League kind of like small ball center? Like, oh yeah, so yeah, interesting with Chris.
He'll be killing it with Oshkosh for sure, like all season long, I assume. Kyle, did you have another Livingston thought?
No, I am surprised that he hasn't gotten a chance, but
oh, we got to keep running Pat out there. Where the hell are the minutes going to come from? Pat's got to play. Okay. Which country has the cooler or which capital city is cooler? DC or Canberra?
DC.
Wait, what's the question again? Sorry.
Which of our respective countries' capital cities is cooler, DC or Canberra? Is it Canberra?
Oh.
Canberra? How do you say it?
Yeah, Canberra.
Canberra. Is it cool? I've never been.
Canberra is known to be very, very boring. The
okay.
Yeah, it's the capital city. There's my mom just screamed from outside the door. That's not true. Yeah, Canberra is, I mean, we have our parliament there. So, you know, whatever. Our politics is very boring, especially compared to the US. We go, when you grow up in the school system over here, you go there when you're in like year 7, you go there every school goes for a field trip to Canberra. And so I don't know, but you know, they have a WNBL team there, but in terms of like sport, there's also not really much going on. So Canberra's kind of like the forgotten city in Australia, even though it is the capital city.
Kyle, have you been when you did your trip to Australia? Did you visit or no?
I did for a brief moment because there's a particular person, and that's all I'll say. There was not much. No,
not much
even
going on.
Even with the company, wasn't sold. And I think it doesn't help that I was like, yeah, I went to Brisbane. Yeah, I went to Melbourne. Yeah, I went to Sydney. Yeah, I went to Cairns. I was like, all those, and then you go down to Canberra, and I was like, oh.
I will say, I think it's the reason it's the capital city is because Victoria wanted it and New South Wales wanted it, and neither would give it up. So they met in the middle, and then you get Canberra.
I was gonna say it's one of the cities that they just like picked a spot and said, "Fuck it, we'll put it here." Like this is good enough.
Basically,
they just built it. Okay, shout out, respect. I love that.
They're like, you know what? Neither of you are gonna get it, so we're just gonna put it here.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Cool. All right, final one. My travel guides here. So, actually, Jack, have you ever been to the U.S.? I don't think I've asked you this.
I have. Yeah, I went on a school trip at the end when I was in. You would call it junior year or year 11 for us. Yeah, we did the West Coast. We did Oregon, California, Washington State. So it was pretty cool, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. So my questions for you guys as an American who's been to Australia and an Australian that's been to America, if you were to make another trip to your respective countries, what would be your like number one destination? Jack, if you can say Milwaukee to have all the fans at home go woo, but you can also quite reasonably say any other place than Milwaukee. But Kyle, if you were to go back to Australia, where would you like prioritize going to visit? And Jack, if you were to come back to the US, where would you prioritize going to visit?
I think I have 4 in mind. So first is Melbourne. I love that city. That was my favorite. So I would absolutely make a trip there. I didn't get out to Perth, so I feel like I want to get out to Perth, and I want to get out to in the outback to like Uluru and everything, because like those are the 2 things that I didn't get a chance to do because of time and money. So Melbourne first, Perth second, Uluru third, and then go to the Great Barrier Reef one more time.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do the East Coast, New York, Philly. What else is there? Like Maine.
I'll give Boston. I feel like Boston would be.
DC does have a lot of stuff going on. Like even if you're like into museums, I mean, they're buried in museums. There's a lot of stuff going on in DC.
And then like the South. I mean, I think that would be sort of cool. I don't know much about the South, but I hear they have like good barbecue. So
it's true. It's true.
You can get good food in the South. You can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's okay if you don't visit Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee, but outside of the Bucks for an Australian.
Oh well, I'm just thinking like if I'm going to visit multiple kind of states at one. I mean, Wisconsin is fairly large, as I understand it. You know, as in terms of a state, although it is close to Chicago, so that could be cool.
Oh yeah, Milwaukee to Chicago is like an hour.
Hour and a half.
I actually didn't consider that, but yeah, if I was to come to America, I would absolutely come to Wisconsin. I mean, it would be like stupid for me not to, but just in terms of like, you know, if I've got 10 days, like what am I going to do? I don't know.
Yep. I'm the same way. It's like if I go somewhere, like I went to Greece and one of our readers was like at Crete, I said, well, of course I'm going to make like the trip to his city to go meet him or whatever. Like if you just have the ability, if you're going to make the damn flight from Australia to US, you might as well like go all the way and like knock everything off. So same for going from the US to Australia. Okay. That's what we got for rapid fire this week. We're moving on. First film review of the season, I think, Kyle.
It is.
Old Dads. Love the title. I'm gonna love the review even more, I bet.
All right. It stars Bill Burr, so that should give you. I'm just gonna lay that out right now. So we're just gonna start with that. But basically, it's like Bill Burr and like 2 other dudes. They're like buddies. They become dads very late in life, like late 40s, maybe early 50s. Like these guys are like they're old dads, as they say. And it's pretty much a movie of the 3 of them having to adjust to a world that is slowly getting more and more like companies and things are getting taken over more by younger Gen X and millennials in terms of like the style of parenting, how they work, things you can say and can't say. I feel like any boomer / old Gen X joke about the millennials and anything like that, it's basically just making fun of different generations and how things are handled. Like that's basically the whole movie in a nutshell. So was it over the top funny? Yes. Are there moments that just make you sit and cringe? Also, yes. It's on Netflix. You're going there with the lowest. I go in with the lowest expectations. Like, just gonna straight up say that right now. Like, there's so many aspects of it. It did just kind of feel like a whole lot of millennials are soft and how they parent is not okay, and this older generation just says a lot of misogynistic things and that's not okay. And then but millennials sometimes might actually have a point, but sometimes the Gen X and boomers have a point. Like there's one part where they're trying to plan like a school festival and it's like mainly led by millennials, and it's just kind of like even some of the things that I was like, okay, yeah, millennials can kind of be a bit cringy. I say that as a millennial. So like I said, very low bar. Is it a good movie? No. Is it a funny movie? Kinda. It depends on what your joke threshold is. Bill Burr is Bill Burr, so I feel like if you've seen Bill Burr do stand up, it's just a whole movie of that, more or less.
Okay. I was gonna say, so you said Netflix production, and so the bar was already in hell. So you didn't have to. I thank you for like reiterating it, but the bar was already in hell. And my second follow up is going to be: does Bill Burr just play like a Bill Burr character? And it sounds like he does. Which
basically it's a Bill Burr with like an anger problem. Like it's Bill Burr with an anger problem.
Okay, interesting. What would you give it out of 10? Based on you can grade it on a curve, apparently.
I mean, I'm gonna give it a 1.5 because, like I said, it's not a good movie. Like, if you're expecting it to be good, it's not. But if you go with low expectations, you'll be fine. If you're going expecting like a good comedy, no.
Come on, you just gave so like you gave it a 1.5 out of 10 or out of 5?
Out of 5.
Oh, okay,
out of
okay.
10,
I thought
it'd be
you
like
said
a
out of
2
10.
or 3.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't even know what my own scale is. I feel like I need an older listener to go through every film review I've done and just like make a big ass spreadsheet and just give me an idea of what I put things.
I know there's some sicko out there who has it rolling. So if you're out there, please leave a comment on the Spotify. I see the comments, I get notified, and we will read them on the podcast. So please don't send me horrible things though. So only nice things in the comments, please.
Only nice things are if you're going to talk bad about movies. And hey, no going after Zac Efron. Okay, that is my bread and butter at this point.
Yeah, that's his lane. Leave his lane alone. We look forward to Zac Efron coming back into the fold. Thank you, Kyle, for sacrificing and watching Old Dads for us. I will not be watching that movie. Okay. No. Right. We're heading back to our next miscellaneous segment, Tales from Basketball's Outback. We already heard that the 36ers are flying high after cooing out, doing a coup d'etat against their beloved player coach. It seems to have worked out for them. Jack, what's going on in Australian basketball lately?
Yeah. Team, last time we spoke, Riley team was, I believe I said they were 3-3 and they're now 6-4. So 2 games above 500. I believe they're probably
I'd kill for a 6-4 record right now. I would literally kill for that.
Yeah. So they're probably about a third of the way through the season now. So they're relatively short season over here. You play 20 something games. They had a good win. They were down 18 points to the Cairns Taipans 2 weeks ago, and they came back and won that game. And then they flew over to New Zealand and got absolutely pantsed. And then they had a really good win against the Illawarra Hawks. Kyle, I don't know if you familiar with Illawarra?
I know of the team. I don't know much about
it. You know the place though?
Yeah.
So the Illawarra, I think they're top of the ladder, I think. So yeah, doing well.
Hey, it's the monument to AJ Johnson's contributions to the team.
Yeah, so I did forget.
They're welcome.
That was AJ's team. Yeah.
Because I don't think they were called Illawarra. I think they were called a different name when I was there. I think it was like Wollongong or something.
Wollongong.
Like okay,
yes,
yeah, there it is.
Like the place is called Wollongong, or I actually am not sure about this, but they used to be called the Wollongong Hawks for forever, and then there's some branding naming rights thing, and they had to change to Illawarra. I mean, the star guard like Kendrick Davis, he's kind of this. He's like this. He's 25 years old, so he's really young. He's only in his second pro season, and he is probably like top 5 in MVP right now. He's just a bucket. But I spoke last time to you, Riley, that he basically his problem early was that he just doesn't play any defense. And
he's the American, right? Is he the NBL next star guy on the team?
No, we don't have an next star on our team, but he's 4 years in college, and this is his first season was in Santa Cruz in the G League. But he's really picked it up defensively, and he's trying his best. I mean, he's 5'10" or something, so he you got to give some stuff up, but he's about my height. So, but yeah, I mean, really encouraging signs from the team. Bucks fan favorite Montrezl Harrell is he's playing really well. I mean, I think he's like top 3 in our MVP voting or the ladder or whatever the heck it is. So rivals become idols, I suppose.
Yeah, when we're in Adelaide, we're all allies. We're all a family when we make it to Adelaide, okay?
He's like Pat Bev when Pat Bev came to Milwaukee last year. Everyone's like, "Ugh, Pat Bev," and then it's like a couple games in, Pat Bev.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, okay. Huh? Have you been to a game in person this season or not yet?
No, I haven't. I've just watched them all on my computer, but they've sold out every game. So the city is The thing about Adelaide is even if the team sucks, the city always comes out and supports. Like we haven't made the playoffs in, I want to say, 6 years or something, and they are still just selling out the arena every time. So
I'm looking through here. Dejan Vasiljevic,
yep.
he's having an excellent season shooting from three, it looks like, just shooting in general. And Montrez also getting him up from three a little bit. Not a lot, but he's making them. It's impressive. And yes, it looks like both scoring and it looks like he leads the team in assists, and it's not even close. Like this is literally not who's like the next guy, not anybody I'm seeing. So interesting. Well, that's cool. So are hopes high for something greater for Adelaide, or is it too early in the season to say? I know it's a shorter season.
I mean, it's been like, so the pundits and everything were sort of foaming at the mouth for this team to suck, because there's actually a lot of parallels between Adelaide and Milwaukee in terms of like perceived dysfunction from the outside and like making bad decisions. Like they signed a coach to a 2-year extension and then fired him before he even started his first stint as as the head coach without the interim tag. So it's been good just because I'm a fan of the team to have the media sort of have to, just go over there for a bit where the team's doing well and you can't really criticize us too much at this stage. So it's been a nice reprieve from like the last few years of like just being like the kind of laughing stock of the league.
Yeah, that's cool. Kyle, did you get to go see an NBL game when you were? I don't know if the season was happening when you were there or not.
I did not. No, unfortunately.
Okay. Do you have like a team? Because I know you follow some Australian sports. Is there any team that you keep even an eye on? No, that's understandable. Okay.
I feel like it's already a struggle trying to follow soccer in Australia and like rugby league, and trying to do another. I cannot do it with the time zones. It's a struggle for me, and I'll admit I'm a little lazy on that. But I'm also old and have kids, so
yeah, it's understandable. Well, that's cool. We'll have to keep us posted on Adelaide's successes, continued successes. Montrezl Harrell, we know you're listening. Go out there, give it your all. Because the Milwaukee Bucks certainly aren't doing that. We will wrap it up here with the weekly predictions. 3 games this week. We start on Tuesday when this podcast comes out. The first NBA Cup game. Exciting, really exciting, against the also really bad Toronto Raptors at home. Then it's a back-to-back on Wednesday at home again against the Detroit Pistons. And then the team hits the road Saturday against the Houston Rockets. Kyle, what will be their record this week?
I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm going to say 2-1. I think they beat Toronto. They get a winning streak. They beat Toronto and they beat Detroit, and they get pants by Houston.
Jack?
Yeah, I'm thinking 2-1 as well. I think Houston has not been if I can remember correctly. I think they're playing good defense, but they're not scoring amazingly well. So, I mean, if we can light them up, hopefully, maybe. I don't think Chris will be back by then, but I think there's a chance we can go 3-0. But I mean, judging by the team's performance at this stage, I think 2-1 is the correct sort of assumption. And by the way, Detroit is playing a lot better this year, so I mean that's a game where like if we don't come out ready to play, we could lose. And God help us if we lose to Toronto, but yeah.
I'm going to say 1-2, and they'll do it in the funniest way possible. They'll lose to the Raptors and Pistons, and then they'll absolutely blow the doors off of Houston. And we'll be back here a week from now saying, I have no clue. I don't know what to take from this, but I'm glad that they beat Houston. And you know what? A 1-2, that winning rate, 33%, that would be higher than their winning rate so far in the season. So we're actually all being very optimistic. We hope that you will be here a week from now to listen to us break it all the way down. We appreciate you listening. Follow everything over at the site brewhoop.com. Pre-game coverage, in-game coverage, post-game coverage. We had the Monday morning media roundup that went up today. Weekly Wednesday wrap-up. Not Question and Antlers. The Tuesday tracker results. Obviously the podcast. We're over on YouTube. All sorts of places. If you like basketball, we like basketball. Follow us. Leave us likes, subscribe, send to friends, all that sort of stuff. And we'll talk to you again very soon.